What's up, guys? We are back with Wednesday college basketball action here on December 10th. We are breaking down 15 games on this crowded slate. We'll be looking at leans against the spread and on the over-under here as lots of teams start to get into their conference schedules, so let's get after it. Also, huge announcement, guys. We've started a second channel called More Stump the Spread, where we'll be posting a new and different video every day, so click the link in the description or watch until the end of this video and head over there and see our breakdown of the NBA quarterfinal cup games. We have leans on all the NBA games for tonight and a bunch of player props. If you want to win all of your bets here on Wednesday, hit that like button. It's good luck and really helps the video get promoted out there. Obviously, I would love if you would subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And if you are a really big time supporter, you can sign up for a channel membership to get early access to all my NFL and college football videos. And you also get your name up on screen in every video just like right now. I really appreciate everyone watching this video and big shout out to the channel members. All of our videos are sponsored by Stump the Spread. We have a whole team of professional cappers over there who are putting in the work every single day, covering all the major sports with the NFL, college football, NCAA basketball, NBA, UFC, and the NHL all going on right now. It is a great time to sign up for maximum bang for your buck. Just type Stump the Spread into your search engine of choice and you can easily view our free picks, new ones posted daily, and you can join our free email list to get updates on results and free picks straight to your inbox. Let me know in the comments any bets you're looking at today and I will give you my best advice on all of them. I personally respond to every single comment every day and I'm more than happy to get back to you. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got the Miami Hurricanes taking on the now #1 Tennessee Volunteers. Miami has not gotten off to the hottest start to their season, guys. They're 3-6 overall. They've lost, 6 games in a row now. They just lost against Clemson, 65-55 in their first ACC game, so not getting off to a good start there in conference play either. They've taken some tough losses in the non-conference. They've played some tough teams, but you're probably not supposed to lose to Charleston Southern when you are the Miami Hurricanes, guys. So that was a little bit rough. They kept it close against Arkansas, kept it within 10 points against Clemson, I guess, but I don't know if you get a parade for that one. And that was a home game there for Miami, and they're having to go on the road in this one. So that doesn't look great. I mean, in that loss against Clemson, what positives can we find here? Well, right off the bat here, Miami shot 16% from three-point range. That's not great. They had an edge on the boards, so I guess that right there is a positive, but we only saw one starter and one guy off the bench score in double figures. Things are looking pretty freaking bleak there for the Hurricanes, guys. I mean, over the course of the season, their leading scorer is Nigel Pack. He is averaging 14.1 points per game and 4.5 assists, so not terrible, but definitely not enough to be carrying this team to wins. They are pretty bad on the glass this season. Their offensive numbers are not amazing, and their defense is really, really bad. So a lot of things are going to have to improve here as they go on the road to take on the Volunteers, who are still undefeated on the season, 8-0. They haven't maybe played the absolute toughest schedule, but they've got some decent wins there. A dominant win against Louisville early in the season, a blowout win against Virginia, a nice 15-point win there over then number 13 Baylor, and their last time out, guys, a 96-70 win at home against Syracuse. So a blowout win there for sure. Tennessee has definitely done enough this season to, put themselves atop the college basketball landscape, at least for now. We'll see how long this lasts here, but I don't know if, the Hurricanes are going to be the team to knock them off. In that win over the Syracuse Orange, guys, we saw 3 starters score in double figures. Chaz Lanier, a great game for him, 26 points, 4 of 10 from 3, 8 of 16 from the field. We saw Tennessee shoot a very solid and relatively sustainable 34.5% from three-point range. They dominated the glass in this game. We had a couple double-digit scores coming off the bench. There's really only positive things to say about Tennessee so far this season. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the nation in all the major categories. Very good on defense, very good on offense. Their assist numbers are also very good, and they can really rebound the basketball. So it makes sense looking at this one to see the Volunteers are big favorites. They're 16.5-point favorites. We've got a total here of 144.5. Miami, guys, they're only 2-7 against the spread. Tennessee, not only have they been winning games, they've been covering as well. Tennessee 7-1 against the spread. Guys, I don't know if this is going to end up in the pinned comment. I would say it's got a chance, but I definitely like Tennessee to win and cover in this game. They probably win this game by 20. Miami has looked really, really bad. Is this a look-ahead spot for Tennessee? Do we need to be worried about that? Well, they do go on the road to play Illinois after this, so yeah, maybe a little bit of concern there, and that might keep this game out of the pinned comment. Next up, guys, we've got the North Dakota State Bison. They're going on the road in a big step-up spot for them to take on the Butler Bulldogs. North Dakota State comes in this game winners over the last 4 in a row. No super notable wins in there. I mean, beating Colorado their last time out, maybe not, a huge deal. They did get blown out by Southern Illinois earlier in the season. They lost against Illinois State. They did get a win over Santa Clara, but this isn't a team that's played a lot of big step-up games, and even their, slight step-up games haven't really gone great. We'll see how they eventually do out there in the Summit. I don't know if they're going to be, I don't think they're going to be terrible necessarily in their Summit games, but I don't know, guys. I mean, Jakari White's a monster, 17 points per game, 45% from the field. Like, that looks good. A nice 82-70 win there. I mean, against the Northern Colorado Bears, though, like, I don't know, guys. I'm going to be a little bit hesitant here. I mean, the Bison shot the ball really well from 3, 40%, 9 of 22 there from deep. They had a nice, actually not a nice, a huge edge there on the board. So lots of positives there, but they are making a big step up in competition here. So we'll see what they can do going on the road to play in a very hostile environment against a Big East team, the Butler Bulldogs, who come into this one in a little bit of a bounce back spot, fresh off of a blowout loss there at the hands of Houston, guys. They lost that game 79-51, clearly overmatched. They've done some good things this season. I mean, not a great look losing to Austin Peay early in the year, but a nice win over SMU, a win over Northwestern, a big win there over then number 25 Mississippi State. So that looks pretty good. And yeah, I mean, a win over Eastern Illinois, we don't care about that, but their last time out, a tough loss against Houston. We do have to worry about the look-ahead spot here for Butler as well. After this game, they go on they stay home to take on number 20 Wisconsin. So yeah, definitely a look-ahead spot here for Butler. Got to keep an eye on that. It is also a bounce-back spot, so maybe those kind of cancel themselves out. I mean, we see Telfort, he's been playing great, 16.3 points per game, 3 assists per game as well. This team isn't maybe dominant on the glass, although they have been against some bad opponents. And I don't know if North Dakota State qualifies as a bad opponent necessarily, but I don't know. A little bit worrisome in this game, guys. And looking at the numbers here, we see Butler, they're 14.5 point favorites. We've got a total here of 142.5. North Dakota State, they're 6-3 against the spread. Butler 5-4 against the spread. The Bulldogs, 14.5 point favorites here, playing at home. We've got a total of 142.5. Guys, I just don't trust North Dakota State here to be competitive against a good team. I mean, the closest thing they've been to competitive against a good team was against Samford. When you're losing to Southern Illinois by, 25 points? That's going to be a big red flag for me. I don't think they're going to have a good time here against Butler, who's going to be determined to bounce back after, a tough time their last time out. Give me the Butler Bulldogs here playing at home. Next up, guys, we've got another pretty big mismatch. We've got the Incarnate Word Cardinals going on the road to take on the Duke Blue Devils. Incarnate Word, guys, they're 5-4 on the season. They've played some pretty mediocre competition, in my opinion. They are coming off a win over East Texas A&M, a 65-53 win, so they'll take that, but no major step-up games for them yet. Now they're about to play a huge one against Duke. So we'll see what they can do, see if they can do anything to hang with one of the big dogs out there. I mean, Davion Bailey's putting up pretty good numbers. Jalen Anderson, 6.5 assists to go along with nearly 15 points per game. So very good stuff there. This has been a terrible rebounding team. Some of that is due to pace, but not a very good rebounding team. Their offensive numbers are fine. Their defensive numbers a little bit concerning, and their assist numbers very low. But once again, that could have something to do with pace here. But yeah, I don't know if I'm in love with what we're seeing from Incarnate Word. I mean, in their win over the 1-9 East Texas A&M Lions, they didn't shoot the ball particularly well. They had a big edge on the boards, but nothing, to write home about given their opponent. And they managed to turn the ball over 17 times against a terrible team. So it could get pretty bleak for them here going up against the Blue Devils, who come into this game fresh off of a very nice win there, guys. A big win against Louisville, 76-65 there. Good job to avoid the letdowns after a big win for Duke over then number 2 Auburn. The Blue Devils have played really good. Their only last losses this season against number 19 Kentucky and against the then number 1 Kansas Jayhawks. So yeah, very good stuff from Duke this season. Cooper Flagg living up to the hype, and the rest of the squad playing pretty well. Also, I mean, Cooper Flagg 20 points, 8 of 17 from the field, 12 boards as well. Duke only shot 26.7% from three-point range in their win over Louisville, so they can clearly do a little bit better than that. No double-digit scores off the bench, but a lot of solid stuff there from the starters. Knuffel continues to struggle a little bit with his shot, so that's something that needs to improve, but not very unhappy at all with what we're seeing from Duke. So yeah, we'll see if they can keep their heads on straight for this one. It's not a look-ahead spot. I mean, they have George Mason next, so I don't think they're too worried about that. After that, they've got Georgia Tech, another opponent they're probably not too concerned about. So definitely a spot where we could see Duke, lay it on them, but my God, guys, this is a lot of points. 34. Duke is minus 34. We've got an over-under of 143.5. Incarnate Word, they're 5-3 against the spread. Duke, though, is 6-3 against the spread. This is kind of a tough spot, guys, but I'm going to be looking at taking the Duke Blue Devils here to get the crazy, crazy blowout win. I don't go too big on these massive, massive spreads, but I do think this is a spot you want to be on Duke. Incarnate Word is a team that has just been turning the ball over way too much, and if you turn the ball over against Duke, they're going to score points, and Incarnate Word probably going to have a hard time getting decent looks just in general. And even once the Blue Devils clear the bench, which will probably happen in this game, I don't think we're going to see, too much of a letdown here. Even the Duke bench should have its way with Incarnate Word. Next up, guys, we've got Coppin State. They're going on the road to take on NC State. Coppin State has a case as one of the worst teams in college basketball this season, although when you look at their schedule, there's plenty of excuses. This is the MEAC team that's not really built to be competing against a lot of the teams they face this season. I mean, losing against Wake Forest, Rider, Virginia, Miami, George Mason, St. Joseph's, and their last time out losing against Wagner in a kind of competitive game, but this is just not a good team, guys. There's no way around it. They don't have anybody averaging double digits. They're 445th in the nation in points per game. They're 423rd in the nation in rebounds per game. Like, there's not a ton of positives here to find for Coppin State. I mean, in their loss against Wagner their last time out, they only scored 52 points. They did shoot 31% from three-point range, so maybe that's a slight step in the right direction, but they got smashed on the boards. They only turned the ball over 13 times, so maybe there's some things getting going in the right direction here for Coppin State, but it overall has been pretty rough, and it doesn't get any easier here. They've got another big step up opponent in the NC State Wolfpack, who come into this game 6-3 on the season, fresh off a nice win there over a pretty reasonable Florida State team. I mean, I'm not going to throw you a parade for beating Florida State, but they're 7-3 on the year. They've done some good things, and it was nice to see the Wolfpack have a good outing. They played a relatively close game against Purdue, but still lost. They lost against BYU. They lost a very close one against Texas. Then, getting that nice bounce back win there against Florida State. It took them overtime to do it, but they ended up dominating in overtime, outscoring the Seminoles 14-4 in that overtime period. A lot of free throws in this game, guys. We saw the Wolfpack shoot 34.8% from three, but over 50% from the field, so that's got to feel pretty good. And both, let's see, who was it? Oh yeah, Styles scored 21 points and Marcus Hill scored 23. So a couple guys having pretty big nights there. So good stuff from the Wolfpack in their last one, but I do have some concerns in this game because this is a big look ahead spot. Like, obviously this Coppin State team is just a cupcake walkover game, but next up they've got to go on the road to take on the number 10 Kansas Jayhawks. Obviously that is a huge game here for the Wolfpack, so I do worry about them in a look ahead spot here. Looking at the trends for this one and the numbers, I mean, NC State minus 32.5. We've got a total of 136.5. Coppin State's actually 4-6 against the spread, which not horrible against the spread numbers. NC State only 4-5 against the spread. This isn't going to feel great. I'm not going to be huge on this game, just like I'm not huge on that Duke Blue Devils massive spread, but I am going to be on Coppin State here, getting 32.5 points. I think it's just a look ahead spot there for NC State. I don't think they'll be fully locked in, and you got to take some of these big underdogs sometimes, and I think this is a very reasonable spot to do just that. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Jacksonville Dolphins. They're going on the road in this one to take on the Florida Atlantic Owls. Jacksonville comes into this game fresh off of a blowout win there against Florida Tech, so not the toughest opponent, but they took care of business there. They've got at least one nice step-up win this season, taking down Virginia Tech, so that's a good one, and we'll see what Jacksonville is able to do out there in the A-Sun this season. I've been a little bit impressed with what I've seen from them this year. I mean, losing against Mercer by 1 point, like, that was a tough game, could have gone either way. They did get absolutely demolished by Georgia, so that's not an amazing look, but bouncing back well there with a win against Florida Tech. So yeah, we liked that. I mean, a lot of positive things to look at for them in that game. Not a whole lot in that Georgia game, though. I mean, we did see Jacksonville. They shot only 4 of 12 from three-point range. Not a team that's going to get up a ton of threes, which is definitely a weakness. We saw 20 points there from Jakari Spence. That was pretty good. 7 of 10 from the field. Made all 6 of his free throws. He also had 8 assists and 6 rebounds. So stuff in the stat sheet there. Very good stuff. We saw Donovan Rivers score 11 points off the bench. So definitely some positive things to look at there for the Jacksonville Dolphins. I mean, over the course of the season, Robert McCray, the fifth, is leading the team with 15.8 points and 5 assists per game. So that's nice. They don't play a whole ton of defense. Their offensive numbers don't really jump off the page. So we do have a little bit of concern for them here going on the road to take on FAU. We'll see. We'll see what FAU is like this season, guys. They're only 5-5 on the year. They have played some tough opponents. Losing against Charleston in that crazy thriller of a game. A little bit of a struggle here down the stretch. They are coming off a win over FIU, but they lost to Florida Gulf Coast. They lost to Seton Hall by 2, and they lost to Drake by, in that 75-63 loss there. A win over Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is pretty bad. A 77-74 win over Liberty. I don't know, guys. I'm not fully sold on this, this Florida Owls team this season, but we'll see what happens in that win over the FIU Panthers, who are only 2-6 on the season, by the way. An 11-point win, so a fairly competitive win there. Florida Atlantic, only won by 11, despite shooting 30% from 3. I don't know how much better we can count on them doing there, and we saw them get out-rebounded by Florida International, so that's not a great look either. Yeah, just not really a banner day. I mean, a lot of points coming off the bench. Caleb Glenn, Trey Carroll playing really well, but yeah, a game that still stayed pretty freaking close. So looking at the numbers for this one, we see FAU, they are 12.5-point favorites. We've got a total of 153.5. Jacksonville's actually 4-3 against the spread. FAU 4-5 against the spread. Guys, I think this is a spot we might have to take Jacksonville. The Dolphins might hang tough in this one. I'm not that wowed with what I'm seeing from Florida Atlantic, in terms of this being a possible look-ahead spot here for Florida Atlantic. They have Texas State on deck and then Michigan State. So they're probably not too worried about, potentially playing Texas State here coming up. So maybe not a huge look-ahead spot for them. And, the Jacksonville Dolphins, guys, after this, they've got ETSU. So no major look-ahead spot situations. I'm going to be siding here slightly towards Jacksonville and the points because I just don't really trust FAU. Moving right along here, guys, we're looking at an interesting matchup. We've got the Charlotte 49ers. They're going on the road to take on the Davidson Wildcats. Charlotte comes into this game. They haven't played a ton of games, guys. Only 7 games so far this season. They just won against Livingston, 83-61. They lost a couple before that. They played a step-up game against Utah State and got pretty much smashed. That's been their main step-up competition this year. So, yeah, we'll see what Charlotte can do out there in the American, but I'm not really too excited with what I've seen from them. Nick Graves leads the way with 15.6 points per game in that blowout win there against the Livingston Blue Bears, a team that is not a real team at this point yet, guys. I mean, we saw some good stuff from Charlotte, but we're not going to overreact to any of that. Charlotte, not a great rebounding team at all, and their defensive numbers are pretty suspect. So we'll see what they can do here going on the road to take on a Davidson team that's been having a decent time. They didn't keep things very respectable in their main step-up games. They got kind of blown out there by Arizona. They lost by 25 against Gonzaga, but they did beat Providence, so that's a positive, and it was a nice 69-58 win, so not even all that close, so got to give them some credit there. Win over ETSU, and their last time out beating Charleston Southern by 1 point. Not the easiest opponent there in Charleston Southern, so liking what we're seeing from Davidson at the moment, guys. In that win over Charleston Southern, they did allow the Buccaneers to shoot 42.9% from 3, but Davidson's right there with them, shooting 40% from 3 themselves. Reed Bailey scored 25 points in the game. Connor Kachuria scored 21. So, yeah, a lot of things to feel good about right now for Davidson. I mean, over the course of the year, they're somewhere around, the top 50, top 60 in assists per game. So that speaks volumes about their ball movement. The rebounding numbers, not great. The offensive numbers, pretty good. Defense is a little bit of a struggle, but looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Wildcats are 8.5-point favorites. We've got a total of 139.5. Charlotte is only 1-5 against the spread. Davidson's 4-3 against the spread. Guys, give me the Wildcats at home. I think they win this game by double digits the vast majority of the time. They're the much better team. They can really fill it up there from long range, and I think we see them doing that in this game as well. Moving right along here, guys, we've got the Monmouth Hawks. They're going on the road here to take on Princeton, the Princeton Tigers. Monmouth, guys, rough start to their season. They've got 1 win on the docket. They've played a lot of step-up games, don't get me wrong, and that 1 win was over Seton Hall, so over a power conference opponent, but Other than that, it has been tough sledding. I mean, yeah, a step-up game against Michigan State, obvious loss there, obvious loss against Rutgers, couldn't keep it, couldn't get over the hump there against Wichita State. That was at least a close game. Losing to Presbyterian doesn't look great. And their last time out, guys, they got absolutely smashed at Lehigh, which is not something I would have necessarily, you wouldn't think Lehigh is going to lay a 90-63 beatdown on pretty much anyone. So yeah, the Hawks not having a good time, guys. Only 1-9. Doesn't look like they're going to have a great time out there in the CAA. We do see Abdi Bashir Jr. putting up 20 points per game, so that's nice, but those stats can be a little bit empty when your team is doing so bad. As a team, they are ranked 359th in the NCAA, only scoring 66 points per contest. Not a very good rebounding team. Some of that can have to do with pace, but their defense is also pretty terrible. So not really expecting any miracles here from Monmouth, even as they go on the road here to take on the Princeton Tigers, who have been a little bit up and down this season. It seemed like they had things figured out until their last game, guys, where they lost 69-63 against Furman. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they had like kind of a step-up game against Loyola Chicago. They lost that one, but it was very close. A win over Duquesne, a win over Northeastern. We're not going to throw you a parade for that. Losing against Texas State, maybe not an amazing loss. So yeah, not in love with what we're seeing from Princeton. I mean, against Furman, their last time out, guys, I mean, they shot 31.6% from three, only 6 of 19, though, so not getting up a crazy amount of attempts, but the starting lineup did not shoot the ball well from three at all. 3 double-digit scores, Xavier Lee, 16 points, so, some positives, but they got out-rebounded by Furman. They only turned the ball over 13 times, so that's not awful, and they were 15 of 20 from the free throw line, but yeah, definitely not the Princeton Tigers that we saw last season. At least that's not what it looks like to me so far. So looking at the numbers for their season overall, I mean, they do lean pretty hard on Xavier Lee. Not incredible rebounding numbers, pretty pedestrian assist numbers. They're a work in progress, guys. The odds makers like them in this spot, though, against a pretty weak Monmouth team, guys. They are 14.5-point favorites. We've got a total here of 146.5. Monmouth 3-6-1 against the spread. Princeton 3-5 against the spread. Guys, this might seem a little bit wild, but I'm going to be siding a little bit here with Monmouth and the points here, despite the fact they're playing on the road. This is a big look-ahead spot for Princeton, who has Rutgers on deck, so another step-up opponent for them. They're going to be looking to make a little bit of a name for themselves, and yeah, after this Princeton game, then we see Monmouth taking on Fairfield. So I don't think that's going to be a huge deal for them. Go ahead and give me Monmouth, in those 14.5 points as a very small lean. Neither one of these teams are good against the spread, so I think this might be a nice spot to take the underdog. Next up, guys, we've got one of the premier games of the night. We've got the Penn State Nittany Lions going on the road here to take on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Penn State comes into this game fresh off of a nice 81-70 win there against then number 8 Purdue. So very good stuff there. They've got a couple of nice wins this season. I mean, the only loss they have is that 75-67 loss against a Clemson team that's looking pretty solid. They beat Virginia Tech, a win over Fordham that was a blowout, a win over Buffalo that was a blowout, and then last time out, that big win there against Purdue. In that win, guys, I mean, loved what we saw from Penn State. They were playing at home, which is a big deal for this team. They, did allow Purdue to shoot, 8 of 21 there from 3. That's not great, but Penn State shot it right back at them, guys. 7 of 18 from 3 for them. They, kept things even on the boards. Neither team had a great night rebounding necessarily, but they also kept the turnover numbers kind of low. It wasn't necessarily a banner. We did see 4 starters scoring double figures, and Nick Kern Jr. scored 12 off the bench, so definitely plenty of room there for positivity there for the Nittany Lions. And, clearly their biggest win of the season, Ace Baldwin Jr. putting up 15.1 points and 8.1 assists per game. Pretty crazy assist numbers there. Penn State is actually 4th in the nation in points per game this season, scoring 90.1 per outing. So pretty crazy stuff there. Helped a lot by some crazy blowouts against some terrible teams. I mean, I don't care that you scored 108 points against Binghamton. Like, that's not going to really, not going to matter to me too much. So we'll see what they can do here. They're going on the road in this one, which could be a little bit tough, taking on the Scarlet Knights, who are 5-4 on the year. They've had some tough losses, guys. They did lose a very close game against Kennesaw State earlier in the season. They beat Notre Dame by only a single point. They got a tough 95-90 loss against Alabama. That was probably one of their better games of the season. They hung really tough against Texas A&M. They lost that one 81-77 though. And then their last time out, guys, kind of almost felt like they ran out of gas. They got obliterated at Ohio State, losing that one 80-66. So Rutgers definitely in a bit of a bounce back spot. We've loved what we've seen from Dylan Harper though this season. He's been a monster, 23.1 points per game, 4.5 assists per game as well in that, pretty weak performance there against Ohio State. He didn't have his best day, guys. He still managed to put up 18 points, and he was relatively efficient. 6 of 13 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. Wasn't going to force it too much. Yeah, just a tough game out there. They couldn't really hang that solid on the boards, but I think that could be a different story here, against a Penn State team that's going to have to be playing on the road over the course of the season. Rutgers has put up pretty reasonable numbers, guys. They're a top 100 team in terms of points per game. The rebounding numbers are, competitive given, their opponents and stuff like that. So, guys, looking at the numbers, we see Rutgers are 1.5 point favorites here playing at home. We've got a total of 157.5. Penn State 5-4 against the spread. Rutgers 3-5-1 against the spread. I like Rutgers in this spot. I don't really trust Penn State here to travel very well, especially here in the early goings. They're not a team that's played a crazy amount of super tough road games. That game that they won against Purdue was at home. This is definitely not a look-ahead spot for them because they're playing against Coppin State next, but they, having to go on the road. This is a big letdown spot after that big Purdue win. Rutgers, they, their next opponent is going to be Seton Hall, so I don't think they're going to be too terrified to, take on Seton Hall. That's definitely a super winnable game for them. So give me the Rutgers Scarlet Knights here at -1.5. I think this is a very solid value. Next up, guys, we get the Charleston Cougars. They're going on the road to take on St. Joseph's. Charleston comes into this game 6-2 on the year. Not having a bad time, guys. Win there over the Citadel. That big overtime win against FAU. A win against South Florida. They got off to a very hot start to their season. And their last time out, guys, they beat lowly Tusculum, the Tusculum Pioneers. So yeah, that was a cupcake win for sure. They knocked them off 94-71. So good stuff in that game. But yeah, we're not going to dive too deep into those stats. Not super meaningful in that kind of matchup. But we've liked what we've seen from Charleston over the course of the year. Ante Brozovic, he is 19.6 points per game on well over 55% shooting. This team is one of the best offensive teams in the nation. Those defensive numbers not great, but putting up 80.5 points per game and in the top 60 there in assists per game. Very, very good stuff here from Charleston. So we'll see if they can keep things rolling here as they go on the road to take on St. Joseph's. The Hawks come into this one fresh off an 82-68 win over LaSalle. They did lose against Princeton. They didn't keep things. They kept things kind of competitive there against Texas. Their big, wins this season came early in the year over a Villanova team that was absolutely stumbling coming out of the gate, and a nice 78-77 win over Texas Tech. So yeah, St. Joseph's has shown some ability to play well in step-up games. I don't know if I would say this game against Charleston is necessarily a step-up game. This should be, a pretty evenly matched situation, I would think. The Hawks, though, like I said, they've played well. Showing you can lose against Princeton, but beat Texas Tech shows you might be a little bit uneven out there. In that win over LaSalle, guys, obviously we're going to see very positive stuff. LaSalle's decent, but definitely not a great team. St. Joe's shot 6 of 19 from three-point range. They did, kind of a bad job on the boards, to be honest, something to be a little bit concerned about in this matchup. And they only turned the ball over 9 times, though. That's a pretty nice look. So, yeah, I don't know. We saw Brown and Reynolds the second both score over 20 points, but nobody else really stepped up. That can be a problem as well. So looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we see St. Joseph's. They are 7.5 point favorites here playing at home. We've got a total of 151.5. Charleston 5-2 against the spread this season. St. Joe's 4-5 against the spread. Guys, I think this is a pretty evenly matched game. I think this would come down to the last few possessions. Go ahead and give me Charleston and the points here. I am a little bit worried since it's on the road, as you would be anytime you're betting a road team in a college basketball game. But I do think Charleston has what it takes to keep this one pretty close here against the St. Joseph's team that, probably not going to be, super locked in for a blowout here. They've got Charleston, American, and then they play Virginia Tech. Charleston, on the other hand, guys, they have St. Joe's and then Wofford. So, yeah, not a massive look-ahead spot for either team. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Troy Trojans. They're going on the road to take on the Houston Cougars. Obviously, this is a huge step-up spot for Troy, who's coming off a win over Eastern Kentucky, but yeah, they've lost against Merrimack. They got blown out by Oregon, did not have a particularly good time against Arkansas. So not a team that's had a lot of success in their step-up games this year, but they haven't been total blowouts, I guess. In their win over Eastern Kentucky their last time out, we did see some good things from Troy. They did a good job on the boards, a nice rebounding edge there. They turned the ball over 19 times, though. That's a big concern for sure. They, got a 10-point win despite, they shot 47% from three-point range and still only won in this game by 10 points. So definitely plenty of room for concern there about Troy. yeah, they're not a very good rebounding team at all. Not a very good defensive team either. So yeah, Troy, definitely a lot of work to do here if they want to have a good time in the Sun Belt this season. Houston, on the other hand, they are 5-3 on the year. They lost a very close game against Auburn early on. They lost a close game against Alabama. They lost a tough 73-70 game against San Diego State, but their last time out, they destroyed Butler 79-51. So seems like the Cougars probably a little bit back on track. Now they're hoping for another big season out there in the Big 12. LJ Cryer putting up 15.2 points per game. That's got to feel pretty great. I mean, holding Butler only 51 points. This is a team that hangs its hat on defense as a norm here. We saw 3 scorers put up double-digit points there in the starting lineup, including Cryer, who scored 20. Houston shot 50% from three-point range in that win. They dominated the boards 41-22. So crazy stuff there from Houston. The concern here for me would be whether they were going to be in, like something of a look-ahead spot, but their next opponent up is Toledo. Don't think they're too worried about that. Troy's next opponent is a cupcake opponent against it's a non-Division I opponent. So looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we see Houston minus 26.5. We've got a total of 133.5. Troy 5-3 against the spread. Houston 4-4 against the spread. Let's look at how Houston has done against big step down opponents, guys. And they haven't faced a ton of them, but Jackson State to start the season, they won that game by 57 points. Louisiana, they won that game by 46. Hofstra, they won by 36, and yeah, those are their only step down games. So in a big step down game here for Houston, I think we're going to see that defense on display. Give me the Houston Cougars minus 26.5. I think this is obviously one of those big spreads again, but this spot seems very, very good to me. I think there's a great chance this one ends up in the pin comment. No sort of look ahead spot for Houston. They are going to absolutely destroy Troy here. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a Big East showdown between the Providence Friars going on the road to take on the DePaul Blue Demons. Providence comes into this one fresh off of a 69-63 loss against Rhode Island. Not really the kind of game you're supposed to lose, but it was kind of predictable, guys. They were in a big letdown spot after an 83-64 win over BYU, which, I mean, probably their best, not probably, definitely their best win of the season. They did play a very tight game against Oklahoma earlier in the year. They got a 77-79 loss for their troubles there, so yeah, that was a bit rough, but yeah, against Rhode Island, guys, they played, it was bad. It was straight up not good. I mean, only scoring 63 points against Rhode Island, a team that is 9-0 on the season. Like, Rhode Island's doing some positive stuff out there, but not supposed to be able to really hang with a team like Providence, a power conference team, but they made it happen. The Friars shot only like 50% from the free throw line. They didn't get the job done on the boards there. Rhode Island actually had an edge on the boards, and Providence only shot 25% from the three-point line. So yeah, not a lot of good stuff to say about Providence in that matchup, although they've had some other positive ones out there. Their offense isn't amazing. Their rebounding numbers are pretty good, so definitely room for a bounce back here for Providence as they go on the road to take on DePaul, who's had a sneaky decent start to their season in terms of their record, but in their lone, I'm not going to say step-up game necessarily since, they're a power conference team going against another power conference team, but taking on Texas Tech, they lost that one 76-62, and that was their last game, so you could say they're in a bit of a bounce back spot, but I don't know if that really qualifies as a bounce back spot. That's a game they're, pretty much expected to lose. In that game, we saw some positive things for DePaul. They shot 11 of 35 from three, a team that is willing to get up plenty of threes, so that's a big step in the right direction, but they got out-rebounded pretty handily. They turned the ball over 14 times and only forced 6 turnovers themselves. We saw 0 starters scoring double figures. That's not usually a great look, and they did a very poor job defending Texas Tech. I mean, yeah, Texas Tech had 2 guys score over 20 points, so a bit of a struggle there for DePaul. Looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we see DePaul actually 1.5-point favorites here playing at home. We've got an over-under of 139. Providence 4-6 against the spread. DePaul actually 5-3 against the spread this season, but like we were talking about, guys, they have not been playing the toughest opponents. I'm leaning towards Providence in this one. I don't think this play is going to go in the pinned comment, but they've shown me some good stuff against some better teams, and they've got that nice win against BYU, and they're in a big bounce back spot with no look-ahead consideration, so give me Providence here on the road as a small lean. I think they find a way to get the job done against DePaul. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a showdown between the now number 14 Michigan Wolverines. They're going on the road to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Michigan comes into this one fresh off of an 85-83, very hard-fought win there against Iowa. They avoid the letdown after a win there at Wisconsin. Against number 11 Wisconsin, very, very solid stuff there. They also had a win over Xavier. This Michigan team really, really making some noise here in the early goings. I mean, wins over TCU, Virginia Tech, Xavier, Wisconsin, and Iowa. very, very good. Their only loss this year was against Wake Forest in a crazy 72-70 game, very early in the season. So loving what we're seeing from the Wolverines in that 85-83 win there over the Hawkeyes, guys. I mean, yeah, a lot of positives. They won this game despite shooting only 20% from three-point range. Obviously, they can do much better than that. They completely dominated the glass in this game, out-rebounding Iowa 45-30. They did turn the ball over 17 times, so you better dominate the boards if you're going to turn it over 17 times. But definitely a couple things in their three-point shooting and their turnovers that they're very capable of cleaning up. We saw 4 starters scoring double figures. We also saw a double-digit scorer coming off the bench. So just a ton of positives there for Michigan. So we'll see if they can continue their good run going on the road here to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks, who come into this one fresh off of a win over USTA, a 75-60 win over a step-down opponent. They took a tough loss against Illinois. They bounced back with a very close win against Miami. They lost against Baylor in a competitive game early in the season, but haven't played necessarily the most loaded of schedules. I mean, in that win over USTA, I don't know how much we can really draw from that, guys. The Roadrunners not having a great year. We did see Arkansas shoot the ball okay from 3, but they only took 15 threes in the game. They dominated the boards, but that's what you expect in these step-down spots. So looking at the season-long numbers here from Arkansas, they're not terrible. I would say they're a decent, offensive team. The assist numbers, not amazing. The rebounding numbers, a little bit questionable, but their defense is pretty good. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see Arkansas getting 4.5 points here playing at home. We've got a total of 146.5. Michigan actually 6-3 against the spread. Arkansas only 2-7 against the spread this season. Definitely a team that's underachieved over the course of the year, but kind of feels like there's a reason for that, guys. And I mean, looking at their opponents, looking at what they've done, and looking at what Michigan's been doing and the kind of role they've been on, and they're coming off, I mean, they're in a little bit of a look-ahead spot with Oklahoma coming up next, but Arkansas, they don't have anybody coming up next, so that's a little bit concerning. It almost makes me want to take Arkansas, but I think we've got to ride the hot hand in this one and take the Michigan Wolverines. Despite the fact they got to go on the road here, give me Michigan -4.5 in this one. Probably not a play that's going in the pinned comment for all those reasons I just listed, but I do think Michigan is the side you want to be on in this game. Next up, guys, we got another power conference matchup. We've got the Wisconsin Badgers, the number 20 Wisconsin Badgers, going on the road to take on now unranked Illinois. Wisconsin comes into this one fresh off of back-to-back losses, that 67-64 loss against Michigan, and their last time out, they could not hang with Marquette. They were on the road for that game, so that makes it a lot tougher, but yeah, an 88-74 loss there against Marquette. I mean, Wisconsin, they just couldn't really get over the top in this game. They were actually up by 2 points there at halftime, but then got outscored 51-35 in the second half. They shot nearly 40% from 3 in that game. The problem kind of was, they just generally couldn't find any way to slow down Cam Jones, who had 32 points there for Marquette. We saw 3 starters scoring double figures there for Wisconsin. They're a solid team, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if they're quite ready to be, a top 11, top 10 kind of team in the nation. It just doesn't really feel to me like they're on that kind of level. Maybe just not quite enough talent. I don't think that's a big, big black mark against them. They've been a good team this season. Their season-long numbers are decent. The rebounding numbers, some of that has to do with pace, but they don't look amazing. They've got some guys putting up points though, and so we're not super low on Wisconsin here as they go on the road to take on Illinois, who come into this one fresh off of a 70-66 loss against Northwestern. That doesn't look great, but it was a huge letdown spot for them after a massive 90-77 win there against Arkansas. This Illinois team kept things relatively competitive against Alabama. They've handled business comfortably against some weak opponents, except for kind of a weird game against Oakland, but generally speaking, we've seen good stuff here from Illinois. In that loss against Northwestern, though, which obviously cannot feel great, they just had a hard time, guys. They didn't shoot the ball well from 3. They did a good job on the boards, but not, a dominant job. It was 44 rebounds to 44 rebounds, and they just eventually end up running out of gas there, losing this game in overtime. Just not quite enough to get over the finish line, guys. Will Riley, 12 points off the bench. That has to feel pretty good, and yeah, they just didn't have enough answers there for Nick Martinelli. So yeah, we got to figure some things out there if you're Illinois. And they get the chance in this one. They're playing at home in this game. They're 6.5 point favorites. We've got a total of 154.5. Wisconsin 5-5 against the spread. Illinois 5-3 against the spread. I think the spread of 6.5 and Illinois being the favorite here kind of tells you the story. I think we see Illinois get a big win here against a Wisconsin team that I think is being overvalued. I expect them to struggle playing on the road. That's not going to be the easiest thing for them. And Illinois, they've got enough athletes. They've got enough scoring. They're in a bounce back spot. Give me the Fighting Illini here. Next up, guys, we got the Cornell Big Red. They're going on the road to take on the California Golden Bears. Cornell comes into this game 6-3 on the season, but with losses against LaSalle, Syracuse, and Robert Morris. I'm not ready to throw them a parade. They did just beat Army handily their last time out. They blew out lowly Colgate. Like, congratulations, but in your kind of step-up games, you really haven't done anything to impress me. I'm not going to look at the stats there for that Army game, guys. That's just not worth it. They don't have any particularly amazing individual scores. Their assist numbers are very good. The system that they're running does seem to work. Their offensive numbers are nice, but like I said, they haven't played very many tough opponents, so we'll see what they make here of, the Cal Golden Bears, who have been pretty okay this year. They haven't done a great job in their step-up games either, so we're not going to get too excited. I mean, they lost against Missouri, but played a very close game there against Mizzou, and they lost against Stanford their last time out, losing 89-81. They lost against Vanderbilt also. They got a nice win over USC, so that's something positive to look at. Their numbers over the course of the season have been pretty good as well, and they've obviously played a much, much tougher schedule in that close loss against Stanford, guys. I mean, we definitely saw some good things from Cal. They shot 38% from three. That's nice. They had a big rebounding edge, but still managed to find a way to lose this game down the stretch. Stanford just absolutely shot the lights out. So looking at the numbers for this matchup, things are looking pretty similar. Cal actually 8.5-point favorites here playing at home. We've got a total of 165.5. Cornell 4-4 against the spread. Cal 4-1 against the spread. This is a tough spot, guys. I'm leaning just a little bit here towards Cornell to keep this game within a couple possessions. They're playing pretty well. Their next opponent's going to be Illinois State. On the other hand, guys, Cal comes into this game. Their next opponent is going to be Northwestern State, so no real major look ahead, implications for either team. So give me just a little bit of a lean towards Cornell, but this one not going in the pinned comment. Next up, guys, we got the Eastern Washington Eagles. They're going on the road in this one to take on Washington. Eastern Washington 2-8 on the season, straight up not having a good time. They just got destroyed by South Dakota State, so that was a tough one. They got destroyed by Utah in their, step-up games. They kept it pretty close there against Missouri. They got blown out by Colorado there to open their season, so not necessarily a team that I've had a ton of positive things to say. I mean, they kept it within 15 points against Washington State, I guess, like in an in-state game, so we'll see what they can do in this one. They're a very weak rebounding team and very, very bad on defense, so we'll see if they can travel here, taking on the Washington Huskies, who are in a bit of a bounce-back spot, guys, after losing back-to-back games. They lost against UCLA, and then they just got destroyed their last time out by USC, losing that game 85-61. Washington, not a particularly strong team this season, although they're much better on the boards. Their offensive numbers are just lacking. I mean, we see great Osibor out there not having the best time right out of the gate, being the very much main focus of every opponent. So we'll see how things go there. Definitely a Washington team that hasn't had the best time early in the season. Looking at the numbers, we see Eastern Washington, they're getting 13.5 points here on the road. They're also 3-7 against the spread. Washington 3-5 against the spread. I think this is the game where we see the Washington Huskies really have, a breakout game and win this one comfortably. That being said, not enough confidence in either one of these teams to be pitting this game in the pinned comment. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Remember to head over to the secondary channel linked below. More Stump the Spread. We're going to have our NBA leans in these NBA Cup quarterfinal games and player props over there. So definitely get over there and check those out. There should be a link popping up on the screen here in just a second. So check those out, and we will see you guys tomorrow on both channels for more sports betting action.